similar to a book club, but maybe do a podcast, which is less commitment than a book to start off with. So, we'll assign a podcast, ask everyone to listen, and then find a good backyard to bring some wine, social distance, and sort of connect and network a little bit more in. And then a few other items on our agenda. We're looking to supplement the Day of Shadowing event with sort of an Ask an Architect virtual event where we're looking to connect professionals with, I think, KU students and then with high school students for sort of a trio of mentoring program. We're going to still pursue our Women's Leadership Series. The Trolley Tour will be our fundraising event. We'll stay active in We Care. And then we also have a separate group that's investigating paid family leave policies. So one other note is that this session today is going to be recorded and we'll upload it to the Women in Design webpage on the AIA Kansas City site. So please share it with anyone you think might be interested in the program. So with that, I will hand it over to Beth and Wendy.
Thank you, Ellen. Let's get my screen going here. All right, hopefully everyone can see that. Well, thank you for inviting us to Share Appointments Project with AIA Kansas City. It sounds like you've got some amazing things going on, so we're happy to be here today. I'm Beth Felsky, and I'm the Appointments Project Director at United We. As we get started, please mute until we get to the Q&A. Obviously, go ahead and utilize that chat. You can utilize the chat, obviously, for our Q&A as well. AP was established to increase the number of women serving on boards and commissions and decrease the barriers that prevent them from doing so. So just a little bit about us. We are nonpartisan, nonprofit, and we are research-based. Our goal is to make it easier for women to apply and serve on boards and commissions and empower them to do so. Please welcome Wendy Doyle, CEO and President of United We. Wendy?
Good morning. Thank you, Beth. It's great to be with everyone. And we'd like to begin by thanking Don Taylor and AIA Kansas City for hosting us, and most importantly, for your leadership of women in the profession, which is, we see you lifting women up and supporting each other. It's fantastic. Beth and I are just so honored to be with you today. I wanted to just start by sharing a little bit more about United We, which stands for United Women's Empowerment. The We is Women's Empowerment. And our work is really focused in two areas. We focus on economic development and civic leadership for all women. And as Beth mentioned, everything that we do is based off of research. So we commission a lot of research studies, which are accessible on our website. We utilize the data to identify innovative solutions, and then we really get to work to secure results. So for the economic development part of our mission, I wanted to just share a little bit more about what that means. And we really work to reduce barriers for women in the workplace, for women business owners and entrepreneurs, as Beth mentioned, through our nonpartisan policy solutions. And a couple of examples of some of our priority areas that we're focusing on is occupational licensing, so professional license, like many of you have, looking at reducing barriers. For example, reciprocity and being able to take your license across the state line to be able to practice without having barriers, or continuing education or undue fees. This legislative session, as an example, we're working on occupational therapists and looking at a compact. So if you have a license in Missouri and we have the 8 states that border Missouri, you can take and practice immediately across the state lines with a handshake that we're developing between the states. So that's an example of some of the work in occupational licensing. We're also focused, we love that we saw on your agenda, Paid Family Leave Task Force. And this has been a priority for us as an organization that we have worked on. We're the only industrialized country in the world that doesn't have a federal paid family leave policy. We've all certainly benefited through the CARES Act, through COVID-19, of having a paid family leave policy. We really like to see a more permanent solution. We have worked with both states, Missouri and Kansas, with both governors who have signed executive orders for state employees to benefit from a paid family leave policy. And there's some additional research that you can access on our website on paid family leave. So please access that. Some additional priorities for us is pay equity, and certainly with COVID-19 and the recovery of that really being a focus on women, as women have really dropped out of the workforce, childcare is something that we are focused on. So wanted to just share, those are some of our policy priorities and some of the work that we're currently focused on. As we really began our work in economic development, we quickly recognized, looking around the state capitals, that we needed to have more women at the policymaking table to really advocate for issues that are impacting women and their families. So the second part of our mission is what you're joining here today to learn more about, is civic leadership. And our goal for this is really that we want more women at the decision-making table. And our hope is that this engagement may lead women to want to go on and run for elected office. As you're going to learn from Beth, this is obviously a research-based solution that we're bringing forward. And my hope for each of you today is that you leave inspired and empowered and ready to be a part of the Appointments Project. And that more than anything, that you will utilize your voice in your personal journey. If it's not through the Appointments Project, maybe you walk away today feeling more empowered to speak up, and that together we can excel our communities forward. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Beth Felsky, who is again our Appointments Project Director, to walk us through the presentation. So Beth.
Thanks, Wendy. And of course, we're going to start right with our research, which has led us to the Appointments Project. And so here's some of the questions we wanted to answer, when we began this journey. Are governments aware of some of the gender disparity on boards and commissions? Is there an effort to change this? How do women really feel about leadership? And maybe what are some of the barriers that are preventing women from applying and serving in civic leadership roles? And so we did some research with University of Kansas, Dr. Barbara Kerr, and we found that a lot of women were lacking the confidence. Some women just weren't being asked. Time was a huge concern. What would the time commitment be, and was their time going to be used efficiently? And then if they were going to serve, they really wanted to feel like, a sense of belonging with the group. And I will also say too, we're excited. We have some additional research from the University of Kansas that will be coming out this summer, so you want to watch for that. Also, that being said, the research shows that with increasing the number of women on boards and commissions, we have great results. So increases public trust, boosts efficiency, improves the lives of residents, and drives innovation. And this is a study we did with University of Missouri Public Policy. And so we've established the Appointments Project to do the following things. One, serve as a resource. Two, kind of a guide or roadmap for the application process. Be a voice of our research. And then also to advocate for stronger, more diverse boards that are representative of communities. Here's a little bit about United We and our success. Over 140 appointments and counting. We've got both rural and urban representation. We are in Kansas and Missouri, but we're also expanding nationwide. So we've launched in Fort Worth and Pittsburgh, and have several in the pipeline coming up that we're excited about. And we also have focus on diversity and inclusion. And we have our numbers there. You can see this is obviously an area that we continue to work on, but really important to measure this and look at how we can engage more women of color serving on boards and commissions. So we always say you're ready. What are the qualifications? You have the qualifications. It's as simple as identifying your strengths and knowing what your passions are. So we're going to take just kind of a quick recap, closer look at civic boards and commissions. Some of this might be review for those who are already serving in a civic leadership role, but wanted to talk just a little bit about, some of the differences between civic boards versus maybe a nonprofit board. In serving in a civic board, you're representing public issues and interests that are really impacting a community. Some of these positions might be, most of them are appointed, some might be elected or nominated, and they really shape and govern the growth of a community. So it's really fun, I think, to be a part of a civic board where you're really moving discussion to decision to action. I'm really having the opportunity to directly impact policy. Some folks wonder, what's the difference between a board versus a commission? And it's really what the group was originally established for. So most boards are more supervisorial or investigative, sometimes managerial, whereas the commissions really were established to be more regulatory or to perform a specific duty. But there's a lot of overlap between the two. So what's the appointments project process? It's very simple. We have you register online, and this is just a quick screenshot of what that looks like so you can recognize it when you go to our website. And we ask that you provide some basic information about yourself, contact information, but we have a variety of questions there. And really, the more information you give us, the more we can help you and advocate for you to serve on a board or commission. We also love it if you can attach your resume. Really helpful when we're working with elected officials in terms of maybe helping them fill a specific need. Once you register, you'll receive a toolkit. Basically just has information, some facts about appointments project and additional resources for you. For example, here's some resources. Robert's Rule of Order, I always like to point out. Robert's Rules is kind of the organizational structure of running a meeting. You do not have to know Robert's Rules to serve. That has been something some folks have mentioned as one of the reasons they were hesitant. You can learn it as you go, but there's also some great easy resources. I mean, you can just Google Robert's Rules. This takes you directly to the Robert's Rules website, but any type of parliamentary procedure, the yays and nays of a meeting, there's, cheat sheets of the 10 basic orders, and but very easy to find. Missouri Sunshine Law, open meetings, both for Missouri and Kansas. Here's the link to those. You can usually find those, or they're both found on the state websites. And those are basically rules and regulations of how the functioning of meetings and transparency of meetings. And these are both summaries. So, you don't have to go in and read the entire document. But if, some folks feel a lot more comfortable if they are aware of that headed in to serve. So the next step then would be to apply, whether you're interested in a city, county, or state board or commission. So I'll go through these fairly quickly, but just wanted to get you kind of familiar of what it looks like on the website. So I will tell you the city of Kansas City is in the process of updating their website. So this might look different in the upcoming months, but currently this is where they have their boards and commissions listed, as well as the application. And you can click in there, you can see when you know, how many seats are available, what the requirements, if you have to be from a specific district, and vacancies. This is what Jackson County looks like when you go to Jackson County Boards and Commissions for their application process. They have a very user-friendly website, lists the types of boards there. And this is the state of Missouri. This is great because on that front page, they've got the Boards and Commissions Director. Sometimes it's called the Appointments Director. They report right underneath the governor. And so they can answer questions about appointments as well. And oftentimes at the city level, it might be the city clerk. But we can, through the Q&A, if you have additional questions about that, we can go through that. Kansas, this is what their website looks like. Once again, very user-friendly. You know, click to fill out your application, and there's a list of boards, commissions, and advisory groups. So then once you've applied, we just ask that you stay connected. Let us know how we can help you through the process. We can't endorse candidates, but we can advocate for you. So oftentimes, you know, we might work with the state or the city, and they might have a specific need that they don't have any applicants for. And once again, that's where that information comes through. Oh, they're looking for this. Here's our applicants that have that qualification. And so, you know, keep in touch with us. Also, if you are curious about the follow-up or don't know the status of your application, we can help you with that as well. And lastly, we really think it's important to celebrate. Here's some of our recent appointees. We've got Sarah that was appointed to the Board of Healing Arts in the state of Missouri, Ginger Williams in the state of Kansas Volunteer Commission, and then Carolyn Watley this year appointed to the Jackson County Pension Plan Board of Trustees. And so by celebrating, the nice thing is we provide us that information, and then we can put that information out in social media, and then you also can share it with your network and employer and groups and friends. And it's really just a great opportunity to share with other women. You know, look, you can do this too. There's all these boards and commissions, and just kind of that mentoring education piece. So we really, really love to celebrate our appointees. And speaking of appointees, we've invited Tori Peterson with us. She's an appointments project candidate, and she was appointed to the Kansas City Liquor Control Board of Review in April 2019. And we've invited Tori just to kind of talk about her experience and her civic leadership journey. Tori?
Thanks. Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Tori, and I'm really excited to be here with you guys this morning and just to talk about my experience and to encourage everyone to apply to serve on a board or commission if you aren't already. But I thought I'd start with just a little bit of background about myself. I am from a super small town in Kansas of about 700 people. I grew up basically on a farm, and I went over to K-State and did my undergrad, so to the huge town of Manhattan, Kansas, big city living. And I had a great experience at K-State. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but decided to try out law school. I didn't know any lawyers, and I didn't have a single person in my family actually graduate from college. So it was a totally new world to me, but I went over to St. Louis University School of Law, and I had a great experience there. I graduated about 4 years ago. I decided to come back to Kansas City just because it was closest to the farm, as far as where I could probably get a job like in a bigger area. And I've been working at a firm in kind of the Midtown Crossroads area called Shook, Hardy and Bacon. If any of you guys are familiar with it, I don't really know why you would be, but it's been a really great experience for me. But one of the best parts about my job is that we're a relatively bigger firm, and so we bring in a lot of outside speakers, which is exactly how I kind of got involved with the Appointments Project in United We. So we had, I think it was Wendy who came in and gave a presentation at our firm, and probably with Beth as well, about the appointments project. And this was over 3 years ago. And I just immediately just identified with the organization. I'm very passionate about women supporting women, women's rights, women's equality. That's just something that I am always excited about, always wanting to lift other women up and cheer them on, be their hype woman. So when I heard the presentation, I immediately was like, I want to do that. Like I'm gonna apply today. And so as I learned about the appointments project, I had never served on a board or commission ever. I'd volunteered through different organizations. I'm passionate about serving my community, but I'd never done anything like this. But I'll tell you that the application process was really, really easy. Basically, I got on, you just like could read about the process. You applied through the appointments project, but then you went and looked at different boards. So I looked at a ton of different boards to see what I was interested in, and not maybe what I'm super passionate about, but also, was there a need for an attorney? Was there a need for a woman? Was there a need from a small town farm girl on a commission that I knew that I could be that person to serve that role? So I ended up applying, and about probably less than a year after I applied, I got contacted by the city of Kansas City to see if I was still interested in serving on one of the boards I selected, which was the Kansas City Liquor Control Board of Review, which is a really long title. But I was like, yes, absolutely. It had been, almost probably close to a year at that point. But I was like, yes, I'm still interested. I would love to serve. And they said that they had an attorney role open up. A lot of the boards, is my understanding, they need kind of different people with different specialties, which is exactly what Beth was saying earlier. Like, you need diversity on boards to drive innovation, to increase efficiency. That's so positive for any board or commission. So they were specifically looking for an attorney to fill that role. And they have other roles on that board that they kind of target: neighborhood community, someone who's in the industry of alcohol to serve on that board, so they can provide their perspective and expertise. And so I said, yes, sign me up. And I got started, and it was a pretty quick process. Everyone guided me through it. I just got emails saying, you need to come sign these documents. You need to come get sworn in here. And it was super easy. So I ended up getting onboarded, and I've been serving on that board ever since. I think one of the barriers that Beth talked about earlier was the time commitment. So I'll just throw that out there now, that my board is an ad hoc board. So what we really do on this board is when there's an issue with normally a restaurant or bar, lots of times it's their liquor license getting revoked. They can appeal that process, and that's what my board does. It basically hears any appeals. It kind of serves as like a little mini trial, and to try to adjudicate whether maybe they need more time, maybe they weren't in violation, or yes, we're going to go ahead and enforce that their liquor license needs to get revoked. But we meet just on an ad hoc basis. So I think in 2020 we met one time. I think in 2019 we met about 7 times. So it's not like a weekly or even monthly commitment. It's just really when there is a need for us to meet. So I've had a very positive experience serving. I've met some new individuals, and I would encourage all of you to get involved and to apply.
Thanks, Tori. We appreciate you taking time this morning to kind of share your journey and a little bit about your experience and process. I always think that's really helpful for someone to hear from somebody who's in the trenches and who's actually, kind of experienced the process. So thank you, Tori. Next up, I just want to, before we conclude, in summary, what's in it for me? That's usually what folks are thinking about. Sometimes, we know the benefits that we've already previously mentioned, but as Tori said, there's leadership growth, there's career development, personal and professional networking, and just making that measurable impact in the community and beyond. And the community benefits, which we've kind of touched on, improving the decision-making, increasing bipartisanship. We especially see this like in the state legislature when women are serving, how they can cross party lines to get support for bills. So, we see it at that level. So having women on boards and commissions really kind of helps that collaboration. And then diversity improves public trust. Obviously, we want boards and commissions that represent the communities in which they serve. And that includes women. So real quick, I wanted to touch on appointments project, some upcoming events. And I actually just saw one of the questions, I believe that was in the chat, about our upcoming events in Independence in Kansas City. These are overviews. Some of it will be the same information, just talking about our research in the appointments project process. But the difference on these events, if you are looking to serve specifically for the City of Independence or a city board or commission in the City of Kansas City, the Q&A will really focus on specific to that city. And so really, encourage you to hop on to those Zooms as well if you're looking to serve with those particular cities. It's nice because we'll have staff, who work the appointments internally and just can tell you, some additional resources and processes that apply to those cities. Ways to get involved with United We. So maybe the timing's not right for you, but there's lots of ways to get engaged with our organization. Obviously, we'd love for you to register with the Appointments Project and serve on a board or commission, but you can share our research, our policies, our best practices, guidelines. You can share them with your employer or other organizations. We've been really busy with policy this year on the Kansas and Missouri side, so I encourage you to visit our website. But Wendy had mentioned earlier, pay equity, paid family leave. We've really invested recently some time in putting together some amazing groups within our organization, change makers, monthly donors, groundbreakers are really taking on some of the initiatives of United We, and then ambassadors are really sharing the word or sharing, what United We is doing in our mission with others in the community. So those are 3 groups. If you're interested, reach out to us that you could get engaged in. We have some great events coming up that you can attend or sponsor. Our Champions Breakfast, April 23rd, featuring Mark Donovan with the Chiefs. And then We Work for Change, which is our annual event, September 29th. We haven't yet announced our speakers, but I promise you will not be disappointed. Some amazing folks. And then you can also just do a personal online fundraiser through Facebook or social media to support a specific issue or initiative at United We. So here's just our basic information. You can register with us, contact us. I will put my email in the chat in case you have any additional questions or want to learn more about ways you can engage with the Appointments Project or United We. With that, I am going to open it up to questions and see everyone's faces. But I do want to thank everybody, first of all, for attending this morning and giving us the time to share about Appointments Project and United We. So questions, you can throw those in the chat, and I think we might have a couple in there already. And then please unmute and we can have a really interactive discussion this morning. Let's see here. In the chat. Does the Appointments Project have a list of open positions that are good for first-time applicants? We do not. If you wanted to reach out to us once you've registered with us, you kind of can put in your interests and I can help you kind of identify what might be a good fit for you and then check vacancies on that. because, you might want, because there's both city, county, and state opportunities. Those are all kind of look a lot different and kind of have different commitments. And so would be happy to meet with you to kind of personally identify what might be the good fit. Because you don't have to have a specific experience or to necessarily serve. The options are endless, I guess I would say. And I think, Tori had kind of talked about that different positions are looking for different things. Tori, was that the first board you've served on, or have you've served on other boards as well?
It's the first civic board that I've served on. So I served on some, kind of to your point earlier, I had served on some nonprofit boards, but never a civic board. And this is the only one that I've ever served on.
Okay.
So one question that we typically field for you is, can you apply to more than one board or a commission at the same time?
Yes, and absolutely, we recommend maybe identifying 2 or 3 boards that you would be interested in. And I think I said this yesterday too. What a great problem to have if you've been appointed to all 3 boards. And so, but just based on, the timing, when those boards are actually when those vacancies will be filled. One of the things about applying for boards, even though there might be a vacancy, there are a lot of boards and commissions at the city level as well as the state level. So the cycle, in order to fill those vacancies, one board might be a priority over another board. And so the timing there, that's why it's always a great idea to go ahead and identify maybe 2 or 3 that you would be interested in.
And then Beth, just the timing from the time you apply to when you get appointed, about how long does that take?
Yeah, so it varies. We're seeing from the application process itself is pretty quick. If you're at the city level, you're not going to need the Senate confirmations that you most likely will need if you're applying for a state board. And so the timing will vary, but I would say, please be patient. Because depending on how quickly they're able to fill those vacancies, depending on what else is on like the city council agenda, there's so many variables. And Tori, maybe you can talk about what the timeline was for your appointment.
Yeah, sure. So I think that my timeline was not quite a year, but close to a year from the time when I applied to when I got contacted by the city of Kansas City to see if I was still interested in serving on the board. So not that I had forgotten about it, but when they contacted me, I was like, oh my gosh, like almost a year. So it was, there was a waiting period, but I would say after they contacted me, the onboarding process was really quick. It was very efficient. Everyone was there to help guide me along, which at least from my perspective, I was really intimidated to serve on a board because I'd never done it before. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't feel like I was qualified, just having a lot of those insecurities. But at least in my experience, everyone in the process and everyone else serving, no one has like a specialty. No one got like their master's degree in like serving on a civic board. It is just a whole bunch of people who are willing to donate their time and energy to, either a cause or to improve the community. And I think that has really given me a lot of confidence in serving because it's like, I don't need to know all of the rules in Robert's order. I don't need to know exactly what you do in every meeting, but what I do need to know is my perspective, my experience, and bring my voice to the table. And I feel like that's like one of the most empowering parts about serving, that you don't have to have that. And everyone on this call has different experiences that are going to be so valuable bringing to any board. But the timeline, sorry, now I got off on a tangent. But the timeline, I would say definitely what Beth said is be patient, because it can take a while. And I would also just reiterate, on one of our board, or on the board that I served on, we had one gentleman who had served past his tenure, past his term, and he just kept serving because it takes work to fill that role. And so he kept doing it. Finally, he was like, y'all need to fill this role. Like, I'm out. I've done this for like 7 years. Like, I'm exiting. And so, I feel like there's probably a lot of boards that it's just trying to get the people involved, because they're all, working individuals or parents, or, doing a whole bunch of other things we all deal with in life, just taking those steps. So I would say just be patient.
And Tori, can you talk a little bit too about, once you've been appointed, how much time you personally commit to your board?
Yeah, so I would say it's not much time, which has been, I did not really know what the time expectations would be. And I'm sure every board is a little bit different, but ours is just an ad hoc basis. So we're meeting for the first time in 2021 this month. The way that my board is set up is, I think I kind of explained this, is we have like hearings, and those hearings can last anywhere from 1 hour to an all-day event. So we're always just asked, like, please block off the whole day, and give people, we have about them scheduled 3 to 4 weeks out, so people can take off work if they need to. And there's definitely, we always get emails that are like, hey, here's some proposed dates. Do these work with the group? Because we have to have a quorum. And, then the person who runs it is basically like, okay, none of these dates worked. Let's try these dates. And it kind of works with everyone's schedule and when it's best for them, which is nice. But I would say we just only meet when we're needed, which can be maybe once or twice a year, or up to, maybe 10 times a year, which is still only about a once a month commitment for my particular board. And we don't have anything, when we don't meet, there's nothing in between us. So.
Thanks, Tori. I think that's really helpful, and because they do, the boards do vary, and especially when you get to the state level, I know that some might meet once a year, and then some are meeting, more regularly. And oftentimes at the state level, it's depending on what, what's being debated that legislative session. And sometimes it's a surprise, I think there were some boards and commissions that hadn't really been that active, and then COVID came, and wow, they really had roles to play that they maybe hadn't anticipated. And so it really does, it varies a little bit as well. But too, when you're identifying your board or commission, especially at the municipality level, you can kind of get a feel for what that commitment might be. We have a question in this chat. Do you all advocate for positions outside of the counties mentioned in the presentation? We do, and I would say, reach out to me if you have a particular county in mind that you're looking to serve. We do try to work with the elected officials. That's end of it as well. So yes, please reach out to me and let me know. And we can talk about where we might be able to help you. Some more questions in the chat. If you don't feel like you've had time to serve in a position now, but would like to start learning, should you apply for Appointments Project or wait till? So I would say yes, go ahead and apply. And the main reason is because, we just never can predict the timing. So maybe an example would be, I might have someone from the county contact and say, we really need this type of person. Do you have anybody? So at least that gives me the opportunity to present that opportunity to you if you're registered. And so if you're in our database and maybe, you weren't ready to serve at the time you signed up, but 6 months later, this particular opportunity comes up. And it might be an opportunity that doesn't come up all the time. It might be a board or commission that is in high demand that people really want to serve. And so, you know, I always say you can register, and at least, you know, if we know of an opportunity that we reach out to you about, you can always say no, you know, look, I'm not ready yet, and that's fine. The timing's not you know, right, or you know, got a lot going on in your family life, and that's fine. But I think that also allows you to kind of stay in the loop in terms of opportunities that are out there, and then just additional resources that we have about civic leadership. And so I would recommend definitely going ahead and registering with us. I'm just reading the chat here, but also if anyone else has questions, please feel free.
I have a question. I was
Yes.
just flipping through Casey Mo's website, and I saw there's kind of varying lengths of appointments. So like, for instance, 4 years. What if I move to Kansas or like move across the country? Is there an out, or are you committed for 4 years?
Yes. Yes, you're not trapped. You can leave, and it would just be like, you know, leaving you know, one employer to go to the next. You do have to, if you're leaving out of the geographical area, you do have to resign from the position. I've had people ask that, well, can I still, you know, complete my term if I move, you know, to a different county? Usually the answer to that is no.
Building on that, Beth, just kind of building on the, you know, moving question. Can you just speak to residency with the appointments?
Yes, it's really important to, one, know your districts, whether it's your congressional district or, you know, what district you are in terms of like who your city council representative is. So at the local level as well as the state level, because a lot of these board and commission positions are going to be specific to the district in which you live in. So there's, you know, there's several ways to figure that out. You know, honestly, you can, it's as simple as like Googling it and finding a map and that sort of thing. But you can also use your voter lookup, like, you know, I live in Johnson County, so it's really easy just to go to Johnson County election office and it'll tell me what water district I'm in, you know, and so you can kind of see a sample ballot. That's a quick way to be like, oh, okay, this is my representative that says District 3 or whatever. So a lot of these positions, and especially in Kansas City, are very specific to your district. So, and that's another great way when you register with us, if you can add that in there somewhere. Very helpful. And, you know, I will say too, if you're really looking to pursue boards and commissions and maybe someday run for elected office, I encourage you to reach out to your, you know, your local city council person, or at least kind of be familiar with them, because those relationships are really powerful, and really can kind of help you work through civic leadership opportunities, especially when you're approaching them when there's not a problem. You know, they love that. And then when there is a problem, you already have that relationship. So I do encourage that as well.
May I add a quick comment to that,
Please.
Beth? You just kind of sparked something in me, you know, from where I sit on my side of the table, so to speak, as a staff member. And my direct AIA Kansas City committee is the advocacy committee, which is tasked with local things. And as Beth and Wendy know, when we were starting to kind of formulate this, these overview sessions, we talked about how our advocacy committee and our women in design, so this is a kind of a nice hand in glove type thing. So as advocacy committees working over here, trying to build those local contacts with legislators and elected officials, and even, you know, city and county administrator people in the good times, so that when there is an issue or a complaint, we've got those channels of communication. And I can't tell you how important that has been to us just in the last few years. I mean, at the state level, we do that also, of course, through our state chapters. There are folks that are really geared to that, but this is at the local level. This is where stuff gets done. And if you have those channels open and they recognize, oh yeah, I know Tori's name. Oh, I know Meredith's name. I know Ellen's name. You know, they'll take your call or return your call, or they'll have a staff member do that. So that's a super critical point, Beth, that you made, that the more people we can get in these roles, even if it seems kind of obscure, like, oh, I'm just on the water district thing over here, or I'm on the alcohol control board or whatever. You never know. You know how Kansas City works. You know, all those connections kind of show up downstream. So I wanted to make a plug for that.
Yeah,
Thank you, Dawn.
I totally agree, Dawn. And I think the best way for us to make those introductions is to get our members in these board positions. And it's been really interesting learning about, like, you know, if you feel like you're not ready to serve on anything right now and maybe the time commitment's too much, to still just apply, and then your name's kind of in that bank ready to go. And then Tori too, like your experience that the board you're on is ad hoc, and that it's not, you know, like 4 hours a week that, you know, you need to be prepared for, and factoring in that it's, I feel like is an encouraging way to remind people that, you know, you kind of just go for it and see what works.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry, I'm kind of multitasking here looking at the chat. Someone had a question about the appointments project application, and you can just identify, you don't have to know the official name of a board that you would be interested in, but if there's, you know, a particular, if you just kind of have, you know, if you want to put children and families, that's helpful, because then, you know, we know, okay, looking at boards that would be making decisions that impact children and families. So I wanted to address that. Here's a question for Tori. Can you go into more detail about the process of finding the right board to apply to? You mentioned finding a board that was in need of a lawyer. And so maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when I was applying, I just pulled up those websites that Beth was showing earlier. And on the website, you know, they have all of the boards listed, and there are so many. But you can just like click into them, and it will, you know, like chronic nuisance board, and it provides a description on like, this board will hear evidence and determine whether a property is a chronic nuisance, and kind of discusses it and provides, you know, some additional information. It shows like, is a conflict of interest required? It shows the board members on the, like in their status, and when their expiration is. So I just kind of went through them, and honestly, kind of because there's so many, did a spot check, like just reading the title, like, was I interested or not, and then read a little bit more. And I think I shared this yesterday. I will tell you, make sure you read those descriptions, because one of the things that I'm just generally passionate about is youth, children. And there was one board that was like, I don't know, Kansas City Youth Board. I was like, wow, great. That's what I want to, I want to put that on my list. And I like opened it up, and it was actually for teenagers, like high school students, to serve on that board. Obviously not qualified. So I think reading the descriptions is really helpful, and it probably will give you a sense of kind of, you know, Ellen, to your point, that the time commitment that's going to be involved, how many people are going to be serving, and kind of what is your duty. Are you going to be like adjudicating something? Are you going to be more of a, you know, like a commission, or even like more of a task force? Like, is there a goal to get something done? And so I thought that process was really helpful. And I also just Googled everything I don't know. So
Thank you. A couple quick questions through the chat. Should you only apply to boards that have vacancies? My advice would be not necessarily, because you can have your application in the pipeline so that when a vacancy does come up, you know, you're already in the pool of applicants. And then also someone had asked about age and, you know, for kind of a young person coming in to serve on a board. It's my understanding, I believe in Kansas City, Missouri, it's pretty young. It's like 18 to serve on a board or commission. And in terms of being kind of the younger person coming in, my advice would be maybe to look at who's currently serving on that board. And if, you know, if there's ways maybe to connect with somebody who's currently serving on that board. We also can try to help connect. I know, I believe Tori's been a great mentor in a couple different ways. And there's someone who's interested in serving on the same board that she serves on. So we do have kind of some mentoring opportunities. We have a program through University of Kansas that actually has kind of a mentoring circle series, and that's been really successful. So I would say and reach out to me. We'd be happy to try to help you identify maybe some mentoring opportunities. But age is definitely should not be a barrier. And some of these boards too, I think they're looking, they're really looking for the perspective of someone who's a lot younger. What's the future going to look like? And so it's really important to have age diversity on boards and commissions as well. And I think elected leaders are realizing that. What else? Are there any, it looks like we're kind of getting close on time. Are there any additional questions?
Beth, maybe one final question to Tori. Just, you talked about some of the decision making that your board has made, which has been more of appeals. But are there other decisions that your board has made to give us an idea of what some of these boards and commissions do?
My particular board does not. Basically, all we do is just if the commissioner will revoke a liquor license. And if you're a bar or restaurant, I did not know any of this before I started serving, by the way, you can basically work with the commissioner to fix whatever issue it is, maybe cleanliness, maybe, didn't pay your fees or didn't renew just your registry, whatever. But if you're a bar or restaurant and you do not you're just opposing it, you can appeal it. So our board only meets to handle those appeals. But I'm sure that there are other boards that obviously probably are part of, maybe the lawmaking process or advocating for certain, city ordinances. Our group doesn't, though, or at least not so far since I've been serving.
And an additional thought too, and it's been kind of nice, there's some advantages to everything gone virtual, is you can see many boards and commission meeting minutes, agendas, and those are usually out there anyway, but some of these now they're recorded virtual and they're posted on the city, county, state website. And so it's really kind of a nice opportunity, not to actually go in person, but you can just kind of see what's going on, seeing what's being debated, and kind of get a good feel. So there are some good opportunities with that. If there are no further questions, I just want to say, thank you, Tori, for sharing your story. Thanks, Ellen, for bringing this group together and making this a priority. And Dawn, for bringing us to AIA as well. Just really excited. And Ellen had mentioned earlier, just the importance of having your industry represented on these boards and commissions, as well as more women and, gender equity on boards and commissions. So thank you so much for your time. Thanks for taking your morning to spend with us. If you have any additional questions, I think I need to put my email address in the chat, but please reach out. And if for some reason I missed something, reach out to me and be happy to talk more about appointments and appointments project. Ellen?
Yeah, thanks so much, Beth. Thanks, Wendy, and thanks, Tori, for giving your story. That was great. And thanks to Dawn for connecting us with United We. We have such a great group of female architects within the AIA, and I think as easy as we can make it to get us on those positions to make us feel comfortable and like we're able to. I mean, when you read the list of barriers that women face, like confidence and is it, the process and understanding it, as much as we can pull those down so we can all kind of just sort of take a chance and get in there. There's a lot of that I feel like we can have an impact on in Kansas City. So yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. We, again, will share this recording on our website. I'd encourage everyone to share it with the women in your architecture firm and, try to get the word out. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye.